Hey guys, today I thought I'd do a kind of two-in-one video, so a walkthrough of my Ultimate MainStage collection. At the same time, I'm going to show you a bunch of new tricks and tips for MainStage that can be applied to any patches that you're using in MainStage, not just these ones. So, okay, I'm just going to quit out of this. So if you do get it from Multitracks, you'll get a MainStage concert like this, as well as the PDF manual. And it's really easy to install. You just literally double click and it's all up. There we go. There's no authorization codes. There's no dongles or anything like that. You just literally open it and bang, it's up there. What Multitracks have done is they've watermarked every sound inside of these, just like other companies do, like 8DO, just to prevent people from pirating it, because it can be tracked back to the buyer. But that way it's easy to install. You can put it on your computer at home, you can put it on your laptop, you can do all that without having to authorize and go through the struggle of having to authorize it, that kind of thing. Okay, let's get on to some of these patches. So I'll just mention that these aren't just presets. So I've actually sampled, I think it's 4 gigs or 3.99 gigs worth of samples for MainStage, and I've combined them into a MainStage concert like this. And what I might show you first is how you can export some of these patches and import them into Logic X if you have Logic X, or how to add them into another MainStage template. Let's say you've got your sounds and your patches that you usually use in another template, but you want to add some of these sounds into it. There's a couple of ways you can do it. So what you do, go up to the top, all you do is save patch, name it whatever you want, or leave it the same name there, export, and then whenever you open your MainStage template or Logic, just go to patches, user patches, and there it is there, and it just loads it back in. Another way you can do it is to actually save a whole channel strip. So you can go here, save channel strip setting, name it that or something else if you want, and done. And now you can add it into any channel strip in Logic X or in MainStage. Another thing to mention is I've created a bunch of shimmer effects, and they're on buses. So if you are saving the patches, you may want to save the shimmer effects that I partner with those sounds as well. So you literally do the same thing I just showed you, but on the bus that you want to copy. Yeah, and so that's how you do that. Cool, let's get into some of these sounds. As I mentioned, every one of these sounds has unique shimmer effects for them, and that's a slider there that controls how much shimmer. So I've set them to what I like them to be at for each patch. Some have more, some have less, some have none, but I've given you the option to add shimmer to those patches. So if you've got a controller, just go into layout, select the controller, assign, move whatever MIDI controller you want to assign it to. I've got a Cognito controller that I'm using for this example, and now that's mapped to that slider there. Another thing I'll mention is when you're using these patches is move your mod wheel up and down, because there's low pass filters and crossfading, a bunch of stuff that uses a mod wheel. So when I'm moving my mod wheel on my keyboard, you can see it moving there. If you don't have a mod wheel on the keyboard that you're using, you can change it in here to whatever slider you want it to be. I'll also mention that the low pass filter by default is set to mod wheel, but you can change that to anything you want if you want to. Cool. Okay, let's get on to these sounds. So kind of the top lot are more aggressive pads, more young and free style pads. And then towards the bottom of the list are kind of more mellow pads. Okay, so this one's Fet Synth Pad. As you could hear, when I was moving the mod wheel up, it just brightened it and made it a little bit more aggressive. And then because I've got the shimmer on this mod wheel, I can actually have it dry or really wet, or anywhere in between. Now the second one is the same pad, but I've put it through kind of a side chaining effect. So just by holding the chord down, you can get it pulsing, doing the classic side chaining thing. If you go down to attributes, you can obviously change the tempo of how fast that pulses. If you want it faster or slower or whatever, you just change it down there. Okay, Trance Motion Pad, or Trance Motion Pad if you're American. Similar vibe, aggressive pad with a bit of shimmer on it. Move the mod wheel up. Sorry, it's set default to be mellow, and then when you move the mod wheel up, it gets brighter. Again, you can add or take away shimmer. That's the same kind of thing again, just with sidechained. Okay, Fet Synth Trance combos. This is a combination of these two pads. This is one of my favorites. Yeah, it's really aggressive, and I'll show you it anyway. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a way to make these sounds even more aggressive by adding some subtle harmonic distortion inside the ESX24 player. So for this example, I'm just going to turn off the second part of the sound so you can hear when I'm comparing the difference between the drive on and off. So first of all you want to do is turn the Fet on. Now this preserves the low end, especially if you start adding resonance. It just preserves the low end frequencies of whatever sample you're playing through this player. Now the second thing you want to do is add the drive. I like it on full because it just adds so much nice harmonic distortion to it. But the only problem is when you add all this overdrive, it actually adds a lot of gain to the plugin. So what you need to do is you need to back this off by around about 10-11 dB, I'm guessing. So let's do an A/B, with and without, and see what the difference is. Okay, you could probably hear that. There was still a slight volume difference, but hopefully you could distinguish between the harmonic distortion and just the volume increase there. But you can hear how it gets a lot fatter and a lot bigger sounding just by adding that drive to the sound. I'm going to show you a way that you can actually set sliders up to do this all automatically. So if I go to layout, I'm going to add 2 vertical sliders in here. That'll do for now. Then I'm going to assign them to 2 sliders on my MIDI controller. Whoops. There we go. Ignore that message. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to map this to the drive. So map parameter, move that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the same slider to move the volume down. So to do this, you need to add another mapping function here. Now just move the volume. But obviously if I leave it like that, it's going to be the wrong way around. So what I need to do is I need to invert that. So when I push the slider up, the volume comes down. And we don't want the value to be -60. So we don't want it to go all the way down to nothing. Let's say we wanted to take off 11 dB, or let's say 12 because it needed a little bit more. So now slide it down, see how it's moving the volume down as the overdrive is being pushed up. So let's give that a try. So off. Great. Now I'll open up that low pass filter so you can hear it a bit more. So that's a better A-B comparison because volume's not really getting in the way. But you can see how it's subtly just making it sound bigger and overdriven. For time's sake, I won't show you mapping the second one to the other part of the sound. But if you wanted to, you could just delete this slider here and have this one slider controlling the drive for both parts of the patches and both volumes just by adding even more mapping parameters to that one virtual slider. Cool. Let's get on to the next one. Okay, so now we're moving into more subtle type pads. This is actually one of my favorites. It's kind of a slow analog pad, so the attack on it's pretty slow. So listen to this. It's really nice down the bottom. And like I said before, you have real-time control over the shimmer, and you can add that in or take it out even while you're playing it like I did then. I'll show you, I'll just backtrack a little bit. Let's say you liked one of these young and free type aggressive pads, but you didn't want the attack to be so prominent, so you want it to be a little bit more mellow. That's really easy to do. Just open up the ESX24 player and move this slider here. That is basically just the amount of time it takes for the sound to get from minimum volume to its full volume. So now I play it and it's going to be a little bit more mellow. The attack's going to be greatly increased. So it's still got an aggressive nature, but the attack isn't so prominent, so it's a little bit more subtle doing it that way. Okay, let's go to computer organ. So I named it computer organ because it's actually got a kind of organish vibe to it, but it was created from a kind of lead computer sound. I think if I look down the list, yeah, it was created from this computer bass lead patch. So I'll play it and then talk a little bit more about it. So if you wanted to, you could kind of set this up as an organ patch, like a kind of electronic organ. The way that I would do that is I would take the delay off, I would open this up, I would add a bit of overdrive and fatness to it, backing this off. I'm not going to do the whole mapping it to the slider again. I've already showed that. And then bring the mod wheel down so it's a bit mellower and see what it sounds like. Cool. If you wanted even more overdrive, what I would do is go to MainStage, Distortion, and I'd use this Distortion number 2. Just play around with which ones you think feel the best or sound the best, but I quite like the soft ones, so I could do the same thing with a little bit more overdrive. So it's starting to sound a little bit overdriven, a little bit more organish. As you saw, it went into the red. Here's another little tip if it starts to get too loud by adding plugins like that on. Let's go to MainStage Utility and pull up the gain plugin here, and then you can just reduce it by as many dB as you want. It's annoying because some of these plugins don't actually have an output gain slider or knob, so you can't reduce that volume. You have to do it with another plugin. So that's what I usually use if plugins like this don't have an output gain. So now I've just reduced it by 3.6 dB and I can get it in the right volume range that I want. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Moog Pad. Again, this is more of a subtle pad, especially with the mod wheel turned down. I really like adding that drive to it, and by default I left it more natural sounding, but I'll leave it up to you. You can just increase that or set up these sliders like I showed before and just have the option to add that extra drive in just to get it a bit fatter sounding, I guess. Cool. This is another really simple pad like the name suggests. Okay, this one's a little bit more unique. I've set up an auto pan, so it's panning in time with whatever you set the tempo to be for that patch. And for all these patches that have extra stuff like ARPs and auto pans, I've actually mapped them to a button here. And again, you can just go to layout and map that to any button. But basically, that'll turn on and off the auto pan, and other ones it'll actually turn off overdrive and ARPs and stuff like that. So if you wanted that same pad without the auto pan on it, just hit that button there. Okay, so that's the pads. Now let's go on to the ARP and rhythmic stuff. Like I said just before, a lot of these have ARPs in them, and you can actually turn this ARP function off just by hitting that button. It's handy to do it like that because a lot of these patches are actually combinations of not just one patch but two. And so by hitting one button, you're actually disabling both ARPs on both patches. So here we go. Like all of the other ones, I can add shimmer to that if I wanted it to have shimmer. I've left it off by default. I think this patch was used on Closer from Glorious Ruins, if I remember correctly. But on multi-tracks, it actually says, if you look at the list, which patches were used for which song, if you're wondering. And I've set them up by default to be, where is it? Here we go. To be the exact tempo that was used for that song for the album. But you can always change that if you're not doing it the same tempo as the album. So this one's one of my favorite pulsing basses. I'm not sure if I actually used it on an album. I may have actually used it on the Hillsong United Zion album, but I'm not quite sure about that. But anyway, I love using it. It's one of my favorites. So here we go. With this patch, you've got the option to turn the auto pan on and off if you want it or don't like that kind of vibe. And a cool thing is I've created a really short kind of shimmer reverb for this, which gives you more of an EDM type bass sound when you add the shimmer in. So I'll play it again and add some shimmer into it while I'm doing it. Great, and like I did for the pads, if you want even more aggression, just go in and turn up that drive knob inside the ESX24. Cool, overdriven pulse. I'm trying to remember which sound I use this for. Pretty sure it was one. Actually, I'll show you if I go online. Here we go. Just to let you know exactly. Okay, so let's say we're wanting to find out what patches were used on what albums. They're actually all here. So if it has a number 1 on it, or 2 or 3, it shows you what song or songs that it was on. So this one's from Children of the Light. Same with that one. Relentless, Scion. Same one there. Beneath the Waters is that one from Cornerstone. I think this one, yeah, Closer, Glorious Ruins. So yeah, it's an easy way of figuring out which ones were used on which albums. There may have been a couple more that were on albums, but Multitracks doesn't have every single song that Hillsong's put up, so some of them I wasn't able to tag. I think the Aftermath tour, those aren't on Multitracks at the moment, but if they are, they'll get tagged as well. So that's a quick way of just figuring out which songs go with which sounds, or vice versa. Yeah, so that was the sound that was used on Beneath the Waters. You can take away overdrive if you want, just by clicking that button there. Cool. This next one is the intro sound that I used on Relentless. I've created 2 different versions. If you move that out, you can see exactly what it's saying. One's a playable version, so you can set it at any tempo, you can play it in any key. And the mod wheel is set to a low pass filter, so it brightens as you move the mod wheel up. And again, you can add shimmer to that if you wanted a bit more ambient and full. Then this version over here, I've actually sampled every single note, or more correctly, every chord for every single key, and got it on key switches. So you can select what key you want it in. If you push middle D on your controller, that'll play the random computer thing in the key of D. If you are doing that song and you do want to use this sound for it, you can control how fast it builds into the intro, or you can keep it mellow for longer, then build at the last second, that kind of thing. Each one's sampled for a minute, I think it is. So yeah, you've got flexibility over keys, the brightness of it. I'll show you in another key, for example, A. So yeah, all the keys are there. It's just these ones aren't tempo synced, so because I record them in audio format, changing this value won't actually change the tempo of how the ARP's functioning, but this one does. Okay, Rhythmic Soars. I really like this one. I don't know if it's on any albums, but it's one of my favorites, so let's get this one going. Cool. Not every patch has a low pass filter assigned to it. That one didn't. As you saw, I moved the mod wheel up and it didn't do anything, so you'll soon figure out which ones do. Most of them do. As I said before, I use the sound on Children of the Light from the Cornerstone album, but you can use it however you want. I think it was something like that. I don't know if that was the correct key. You can add shimmer to that. You can take the overdrive off. All those functions are the same. Again, this is another patch that was used on the same song. Saw Pulse, I think this wasn't on any albums, but I'll just play it and you can hear what it's doing. If you're looking to the bottom right hand corner, you would have seen these sliders moving up and down. This is actually two different patches that I kind of morph, crossfade between. So that's a cool little function that I added to that. And a bunch of these ones down here have crossfading functions, kind of bringing in one sound and pulling the other one out at the same time. So yeah, that's what I've done there for that patch. Here's one more pulsing sound out of the ARP and rhythmic section. Okay, let's get on to our leads and basses. Some of these are really unique, not your normal type leads and basses, but that's the way I've designed them. With this one, it's not actually a Shimmer Reverb effect that I've put on. I actually sampled the reverb and mixed it in. So as you can see over here, it says Spring Reverb. So if I pull that down, it's a sampled reverb. There's no reverb on it now. Then I put it up. And you can hear that kind of spring type reverb on there. I've also added a bunch of delay on here. You could turn that on or off if you wanted to. Okay, bass freakout. This is a really interesting type of patch, so I'll play this one for you. As you could see, I moved the mod wheel up and it didn't do anything because I haven't got the low pass filter mapped to it. But let's say you wanted to map it to the mod wheel. It's pretty easy. What you do is you go into here. I've got it on velocity. You change that to control 1, which is by default your mod wheel. You change this to, where is it? Here we go, filter cutoff. Turn it on. If you want it to keep the bottom end in, you turn that on. Again, you have the option for the drive. Now what resonance is it's boosting the frequency at the place that it's cutting it. So it adds a really unique effect to the cutoff. It actually accentuates the cutoff. So for most of my pad sounds, by default, I'll have that at 0. For leads and stuff that you want it to be more prominent when you move the mod wheel up and down and affect this cutoff, that's when I would add a little bit more, but we'll leave it off for now. Okay, so this is your minimum cutoff value, and then your max will be obviously over here, but you need to move that to your minimum value that you want the cutoff to stay when your mod wheel is down. So let's try that. Yeah, so obviously you might not want it completely off when your mod wheel is down, so that's how you set that up to be as mellow as you want at the lowest mod wheel setting. Okay, so this is kind of a old school computer gaming type sound, as you can see by the name. So you can get all those kind of old school computer sounds. That kind of vibe. You can obviously use it for whatever you want, but I included that because I thought it was quite interesting. And this one's a really dirty synth bass. Okay, so this one's called Electro Hard Bass. Obviously, electro type bass. It's really aggressive. So listen to this one. This is one of my favorite kind of Moog bass patches. I'll just play it and you can get a vibe for it. One thing I keep forgetting to do is move my mod wheel down at the start of each patch. So that's one thing that you might need to do. If you've got a controller that has flying faders or motorized faders, that will automatically change your controller to mimic whatever's on here. But most of us don't. I used to, but my one kept breaking, so I just got the cheap option. So yeah, now I just need to remember when I go to a new patch, just to move the mod wheel to represent what the patch value of the mod wheel is. Okay, here's another bass lead patch. Again, this is another one that has two patches kind of mixed together and crossfading when you move the mod wheel up. Okay, so this last one's really good for adding low end to any of your tracks or live or whatever you want to use it for. It's actually got kind of a kick sound at the beginning of it, but if you play it legato, legato meaning one note kind of transitions into the other, so you're playing the second note at the same time as you're playing the first. That's a really rough way of explaining what legato is, but you know what I'm trying to get at. That'll take the kick aspect of it off. Otherwise, if you play each note independently without kind of blurring the notes together, then you'll have that kick aspect to it. Yeah, so that's my walkthrough video. I hope you picked up a bunch of tips and tricks that you can add to your patch creation and your templates. So great, thanks for watching.